is expected to stay in his job next season. Liverpool's form this season has seen Slot come under huge pressure and scrutiny. We've got two fans now who sit on both sides of the argument. Jamie Story is in the, should we call it the in camp, and Peter Bolster is in the Slot out camp. Good evening to you both. Jamie, I'm going to start with you. State your case for why Slot should stay.
I think, first of all, obviously, it's been a difficult season, but the ownership have come out. They said that they're going to back Arne Slot, that he is the man to take them forward. And I think if you were to ask most Liverpool fans at the start of last season, we would finish Champions League and win a Premier League in the next 2 years, every single Liverpool fan would have snapped your hand off. The transition season that we were meant to have last season is happening this season. And I think for that reason, they obviously feel Arne Slot is the right man to take them forward. And I think that probably is the right thing considering the options that are out there right now.
OK. Peter, you disagree potentially?
Yeah, it's hard because I really like Jamie, but that's absolute nonsense because the transition season doesn't mean you have to regress, and that's what Liverpool have done. And to say that if this would have happened last season is, again, just nonsense because Liverpool finished on 82 points the season before and we're in the title challenge. Klopp nearly won it right at the end and it just didn't happen. Slot got all the praise last season for Liverpool winning the league, but what's happened this season has just been short of nothing short of failure, really. It's absolutely terrible.
Right, who's failed in your opinion then?
Well, Slot's failed, first of all. I think we can go through it. I mean, we need an hour-long show just to go through. Maybe we can talk about Michael Edwards, maybe we can talk about Richard Hughes, the transfer committee in entirety. But I think what my biggest problem with Arne Slot is he hasn't got the most out of what he's got this season. So you've signed Alexander Isak, and I know he's being injured, and that's fine, but when he's played, he doesn't look like a Liverpool player. He looks like a fish out of water. That's 25 million. Florian Wirtz looks slower to me than when he first started the season, which is just mad, isn't it? That he's just looks like a player, a bang average player. And you're thinking about a footballer that everyone wanted in Europe. I still don't know what Arne Slot's football is like. And I challenge anyone in the studio, I challenge anyone to tell me now, if you didn't watch Feyenoord and you'd only watched Liverpool in the last 2 seasons, what is Arne Slot football? Because we can see Pep Guardiola's football, we can see Mourinho's football, we can see Arteta's football, we can see Klopp football, we can see Sam Allardyce's football, we can't see Arne Slot's football. And that's the concerning thing for me, is that what are we transitioning into? Because we talk about Liverpool qualifying for the Champions League and we talk about, or maybe the safest job, we're 5th. We're lucky that 5 teams qualify for the Champions League, and we're lucky that Chelsea are as bad as they are, because this has been absolutely disgraceful. 17 defeats and counting, by the way, because the season's still yet to be finished.
Jamie, I'll ask you a question. You're slot in, right? Would you take, you've got Alonso, the Liverpool legend, done an outstanding job with Leverkusen. I think Real Madrid, it was a complete failure to let him go. I think he's an outstanding coach, one of the best in Europe, if not one of the best in the world. Would you take Alonso now over Slot?
See, I think it's like that is the question on every Liverpool fan's mind right now. Is Alonso the right man? And I think at the end of the day, that is going to be a risk as well. Whether you sack a manager or you bring a new manager in, you don't really know what's going to happen. What I know is a fact is that Arne Slot won a Premier League last season for Liverpool, and the ownership that we have in place feel like he is the man to take us forward. That ownership were the people that brought in the likes of Salah, Mane, they brought in obviously Van Dijk, Alisson, players that revolutionised this club. Yeah. And for me, right now, I think Xabi Alonso is a risk. Obviously, sticking with Arne Slot, that means you're going to have to back him in the transfer window as well. And I understand that is a risk on top of that. But right now, I think with the players that Liverpool have in their squad, I don't think that this team is capable of winning a Premier League again. I think if you go back to last season, Van Dijk, Alisson, Salah, these are players that should have had replacements brought in 2 or 3 years ago. That was not when Slot was in charge. It was not when Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes were there. They were players that should have been brought in. Like, you look at Andy Robertson, we're bringing in Kirkes now and expecting him to play 30, 40 games a season when Robertson is on the way out. These players should have been replaced and understood what role they had in the team and developed, rather than having to go out and bring in 5 or 6 players that instantly had to adapt. And I agree with what Pete said, that some of these players right now aren't performing at the level that they should have. Frimpong, I think, has been in and out of the team, obviously with injuries. Wirtz 100% hasn't lived up to the price tag. And I think overall, I think Arne Slot this season has had to try and change completely about what Liverpool have done. And that has obviously been very difficult. I think you give any manager what Arne Slot has had to deal with this season, and they would struggle. Pep Guardiola came into a City team, to go back to your point, Pete. He came into a City team that had Aguero, De Bruyne, David Silva, and he had to go and try and adapt and bring in players to fit his ideology. He finished third in his first season and finished 15 points behind Chelsea, which is exactly where Liverpool are right now. The transition is happening before our eyes, and bringing in a manager like Alonso, that is going to be a risk. It's going to be changing completely again what we have done. The only manager that I think people can look at is Luis Enrique, but as I said, I think it's still a risk doing what we've done, and the transformation that we're seeing with Liverpool right now probably should have happened last season. And the matter of fact is that winning the Premier League has hurt Arne Slot, because the expectation went through the roof when Liverpool had to change a lot of players and stuff behind the scenes, and that is obviously just the luck of the draw with Slot. But at the end of the day, he did win a league, and I think that does deserve a little bit of credit.
Peter, I want to bring you back in, because there's plenty that Jamie said there, and also you picked up on Wirtz, and arguably, in terms of his performance, the forward line has been very chop change, for want of a better phrase. So, and we talk about telepathy amongst players at times, certainly in those sorts of roles. So, in his defence, he's not had it easy in terms of him coming in and trying to make an impact this season.
No, absolutely, that's totally right. I think it was very apparent, very clear early on that Liverpool lacked pace in the wide areas. But that's what we can see in is then, because why have you, as a football manager, gone into the new season with no pace in the wide areas? And I think the best managers don't just manage what they've got below them, they manage up as well. And they make sure that Luis Diaz doesn't go out that door. And if he does go out that door, they make sure that there's a replacement coming in. I don't see Alex Ferguson or a Pep Guardiola or a Jurgen Klopp go into a season without footballers to be able to get the best out of them. But I want to throw a question back at Jamie, because he's such a smooth talker. It's hard not to agree with most of the things he said. But this is now, first. This is, would you sign Arne Slot now? Because that's what you're going to have to do. He's only got 12 months left on his deal. So what you're essentially saying is you're going to give him a new deal. That's what Liverpool have to do. You can't go into a new season the size of our football club and let his contract run down and have it as another sideshow circus as the season starts.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't think Liverpool will be pressured into giving him a contract. I think they might want to do it as a sign of backing their man, and I would understand if they did. To go back to your point about the Ferguson, the Guardiolas, like, I think this idea of having those types of managers, I think Guardiola is probably going to be the last of his kind in that ilk, because Arne Slot is not a manager. He's a head coach. He has decisions and he takes on board what the leadership team is saying to him. But at the end of the day, he's there to manage the players that he has. And if they said to him, which some of the rumours were, that we're not going to replace Luis Diaz, we're bringing in Ekitike and Isak, you're not going to have that width, we want you to use Rio. And that was the messaging that he got. So if he wanted to replace Luis Diaz, then it might have been his decision at the end of the day.
You're totally right. Only because I've heard it. And I think all the Liverpool fans have all heard. I think everyone's heard all of those excuses, and they're all right. You're totally right. But he is a head coach. That was so clear from the beginning a couple of years ago, that when he took over Liverpool, he was the first head coach, not a manager. And you're right. But the problem is, you're right until you're wrong again. When FSG believe in a man so much so that he will have the authority to do what he wants. I just don't. And you say about playing Rio, he hasn't played Rio. So here's a wild man who he's not played all season.
So I think with the Rio situation, I don't think he's been ready to play the amount of games. And he's obviously had his moments when he has come on.
Go on.
Yeah, Jamie, I was just saying, you referred to him as a head coach, and you both brought up that the players Wirtz and that look slower than they did at the start of the season. If you're Jamie, you're saying he is an outstanding coach. He mustn't be coaching them correctly, because the players are not looking. They're not looking sharp enough. They're not looking at it. If he's had a bad season, even the relationship with the fans, and even his relationship with the media, his interview after the PSG away game, what do you believe that he's the man? And I'll ask you again: would you take Alonso over Slot?
Right now, I think I would stick with Slot, and that's why I think the Liverpool hierarchy, they feel like he's the right man, and I understand why they think that. So I wouldn't go for Alonso. In terms of managing the players, and I think this obviously gets thrown about, I think Arne Slot last season people will say it was Klopp's team, but he was one of the reasons why we won the league. Like, he puts Gravenberch into a 6, He puts Diaz up front and he brings Cody Gakpo out the left consistently. He gives Salah the best ever season he's ever had. And he had conversations with Salah. Salah had come out and said he had conversations with Slot to get the most out of him. It was to obviously enable him going forward. And I think Liverpool this season, we've had drop-offs from players that we're at an elite level. We're at a world-class level. The likes of Salah, Van Dijk, Konate, Alisson. Mistakes that they have made, not from a lack of playing or like an ideology of football, just general mistakes, poor mistakes in the game. I'm not saying Arne Slot is not to blame for some of the things that he has done this season, because I think he has made mistakes throughout the season. You can go to different games and we can talk about that. But at the end of the day, I think Liverpool's transition is happening before our eyes. And it was a transition that we all thought was going to happen last season. And he is being solely to blame. When I think if the transition had happened last season and we got Champions League and then we won the Premier League this season, most Liverpool fans would have said, that is absolutely brilliant. Do you know what I mean? And that's where I think we stand with it. And that's why they feel he's the right man to take us forward if he gets the players that he obviously needs to transform this Liverpool team back to winning leagues and Champions Leagues.
Yeah, that said then, Peter, do you feel that he kind of set the bar too high almost in his first season? And the fact that he did win the Premier League, Liverpool fans are expecting him to just go on and almost repeat it, or at least be challenging for it this time around. And actually, what Jamie is saying, this actually is a team, a squad in transition.
No, I don't think so, no. I think Liverpool have been a top side for a long time, and we talk about these footballers, they used to being at the top of the league, they used to be to winning trophies and competing at the very end of the season. I think he's had all the tools to go again. He's had 450 million in the summer, and I'll repeat again, they've set the team up wrong. When we talk about ideology, because that's what Jamie just used the word there, we're looking at identity, and there is no identity, there is no ideology. We don't know what it is, and that's what the biggest concern is moving forward. And I think Liverpool are on a crossroads now that they do have to re-sign him. It's not about appointing a new manager. This will be a new manager in the summer. By making Arne Slot continue, you can't, listen, I can't have it where you're going into a new season with 12 months left on the deal. What do we do 3 games into the season? You say, well, Arne Slot's only got 10 months left and Liverpool have only got 5 points out of the first 3 games, and they don't look like they're really good. Even on Sunday, I was at the game. There was Liverpool fans saying to me before the